Welcome to Daily Meditation with Sangha Live.
Okay, let's start. First of all, I need to mention that this week is a deeply personal one. I have witnessed the loss of two of my fellows along the way in the past weeks. And my heart is grieving for that. And my heart is grieving for many other things, from the personal, my own body aging, to people I lost in my lives, to struggles and difficulties in my family, extending to the larger picture out there. So there is a lot to grieve. And I find a necessity and a wonder in grieving, which I want to share with you, and then see what responses come from your side. So maybe let's start with a short reflection on what grief actually is, how we think of grief and grieving, and maybe the obstacles and the hindrances in our thinking and relating to grieving, which make it sometimes hard to grieve. When I think of grief, I think of an emotion. Most often, I think of an emotion, a powerful emotion at times, a strong current which has the potential to sweep us away, tsunami-like grieving. And connected to the grief, a feeling of discomfort, at least, an idea of myself as being weak or helpless, and sometimes even grieving on the brim of despair. Yeah. When we talk to each other about grieving, we talk about grief most often in the context of losing a loved one. That's when we, family member, someone dear to the heart, that's when we expect each other to grieve. That's one thing. And that's when we allow our grief to surface and to show. I wonder what you think of when you talk or reflect upon grieving. That's what came up to me as being the surface, like the peak of the iceberg. And when I think about this, I think that it's a pretty narrow understanding of grief. It is a very limiting understanding of grief. To think of grieving as something which has to be big, which has to be intense. There can be an easy judgment if it's light on the heart. Grief would just be almost a feather-like sadness. That can't be grieving, can it? It has to be engulfing. Yeah. Or it might stop us from grieving these pictures. And can't go into grief because this is consuming and this is even threatening. Yeah, it will stop me from, and I hear this a lot, I can't grieve, it will stop me from being functional. Yeah. So we shut the doors on the grief because we need to function. We need to continue delivering what we need to deliver. Yeah. And we limit ourselves in order to find appropriate grieving forward. It's the loved ones. It's the obvious loss. And yet there would be so much more, and I'll come to that in a minute, so much more we could potentially grieve. The Buddha pointed to so much more than just the loss of the loved one. While this, of course, has its important place. This image of grieving also brings us in touch with a sense of passivity. A perceived weakness. Grief is weakening me. It's stopping me from being functional. It's taking me out of the world and out of the normal. And I have to endure it. It passes through as something which I did not choose and did not consciously engage with. It's the big wave the heart is in, and I have to endure grief until it's gone. Almost like a malady, some sort of sickness, isn't it? This image of grief. And I'm taken out of the normal. Yeah, I'm taken out of the normal. And there might be an expectation either from ourselves or from others or from both to snap back into normal as soon as possible. When is this grieving over? When will I have my old self back? When will I feel lighted, happy once again. And there might be some form of pressure, there might be some form of impatience with it, there might be an unwillingness to go through the different stages of grieving, which there's the different layers which need to peel away within the grief. And we might rush the grieving process. So a couple of questions, an invitation really to think differently about grieving. What if we allow ourselves to grieve for many things? Many, many things. I show you what the Buddha suggested to grieve in a minute. He even recommended grieving as a daily practice. If you are familiar with the 5 remembrances, I read them out to you later. A daily practice. Let's open up our hearts. Let's become so skilled that we can grieve the small and the large dukkha's on a daily level. And maybe you go like, oh, who would ever want to do that? Have we been captivated in a world where happiness is the absolute? Happiness is aliveness. Happiness is the sense we should feel all the time. Happiness is the purpose of life. And things like grief stand in the way. Grief and sadness, a heaviness of the heart stand in the way of that happiness. Yeah, just to question that shortly. What if grieving wouldn't be something which comes over us like a big tsunami wave, but actually something we choose? Actually something we find purpose and meaning in, and choose to enter into as a wise response to certain experience, and a conscious movement of the heart towards grief. And not something on taken captive by, but we're actually something to say, let me grieve this. This needs grieving. And what if we become so skilled in grieving that it became not only an emotion, but actually a tool which we can actively choose and apply. Let me learn, and it's a learning process, absolutely, to navigate and feel safe within the stormy waves of grief. It might be unpleasant, dear ones, but unpleasantness is not the problem. The problem is that I feel lost, and I feel small, and I feel helpless, and I feel diminished in my worth, because my worth depends all the time on how functional I am. Yeah. So what to grieve? The Buddha said it in beautiful terms. He said it in one way, and he said it in a second way. In one way, he remembered us of a universal truth, a truth which isn't Buddhist, a truth which isn't Christian only, and it belongs to any other religion on this planet. It's just a human common waking up to a universal truth. Dear ones, there is dukkha in our lives. Dukkha, the friction, the ouches, the disappointments, the dreams which do not come true. The change and the changeability is part of our lives. It was, and it always has been in the past. It is right now in this moment, and it always will be. There is no escape from that. Bummer, isn't it? How often do we? No, not even we, but our minds try and see whether there isn't a way around that. Like, oh, yeah, universal truth, that's nice, but can we find any way out of this? Or how often is our life, our distractions, everything there to find a way out of this because we can't bear with it? Yeah. And that's okay, not be able to bear with it because we don't have the tools and the understandings yet. We need to distract ourselves. We need to numb ourselves. Our societies and our social dynamics, they ask a lot of numbness from us these times, because I can't potentially hold all that grief yet. I don't know how to properly grieve yet. I don't. I go into numbness a lot of the time, and then I need to reawaken that heart. So dukkha is woven into the fabric of our everyday life. It's there. And the Buddha reminds us in 5 ways. And he says us, remember every day these following 5 things. I'm of the nature to age, and I will not escape aging. I'm of the nature to get sick, and I will not escape sickness. And I'm of the nature to die, and I will not escape death. Yeah, even if I try to upload my consciousness somewhere, I'm of the nature to die, and you're of the nature to die. Sometimes it's going inwardly, sometimes it's going outwardly. The 4th one, all that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There is no way to escape being separate and separated from. And the 5th one is a curious one. I inherit the results of my actions of body, speech, and mind, and my actions are my continuation. I know when I'm in touch with that, my poor little heart starts quivering. It says, that is too much. I can't potentially hold that, and that's fine. And now your heart, don't push your heart ever over the brim of what it can hold in any moment. Yeah. Just say you are being touched by that. And maybe being touched by what I tell this week is a lot, and that's fine. And you can go at any time, switch off. Just like, do not overwhelm yourselves, and come back later and take it in as many small portions and snippets as you need. So if I hear the Buddha saying this, I hear him not trying to, one image I had a long time when I read these 5 sentences is like, wow, there is a certain amount of cruelty in this. I feel rattled, I feel shaken, I feel like when I'm in my bed in the morning and one of those nasty ringing tones goes off and you just like leap out of bed and think, oh, there's this shock in the system. There's a shock in the system. I'm not sure whether he wanted to do that or whether there was just like how easily I fall asleep, and then think things should be a certain way and I should be a certain way and life is going a certain way. And I fall asleep into a dream and our minds are big, big dreamers. So let me remember. And to avoid the shock, to avoid this pressure to accept any of that, I need to grieve. I'm of the nature to age. I feel this in my body right now. I turned 40 in September, and some of you might say that's no age. I acknowledge that. There is more to come, definitely. But I can grieve. I can grieve that I notice my body is not what it once was. Yeah, there is now in the mornings certain slowness, and there is some ache in the morning, and that's the beginning of probably more. And I can push myself into accepting, just accept it. That's age, and that's without heart, and that's without authenticity. I can stand up in the morning and say, and grieve the hue which is slowly trickling out of this body. It is. And this grief is not a dramatic grief. It's not one where many tears are coming or the heart is in deep emotion. It's a softness in the heart to say, yeah, that's what it is. So there is a lot to grieve, dear ones. The larger and the smaller ouches. I grieve this sickness, and if it's just a cold, I grieve that I can't go out into the world today and do what I plan to do. That is grieving. And I grieve my dreams and my hopes and my expectations which did not come true. My daughter brought me yesterday a very old diary from my teenage years. She found it at her father's place where it obviously got stuck. And I turned the pages and I thought, wow, I was full of dreams and hopes and expectations on the word and on myself and who I will become and how this word we're going to be right now. And nothing came true. Other things came true. I could grieve that. Yeah, I can sit there and I grieve that I won't be traveling the world anytime soon. And I grieve that I do not even find there's so much an appeal anymore, thinking of probably a lot of air travels I would have to do. That's a dream. That's a wish which I need to grieve. I grieve a lot during the days that I'm not the mom I feel I should be. Yeah, I don't have the energy, and I don't have the presence, and I don't have the mindfulness all the time. May I admit that, and I need to grieve that. I'm a person with finite capacities in all directions. I need to grieve that. I need to grieve what I will never be and never have and never experience. I need to grieve the unfulfilled needs, and I need to grieve a whole lot of my ideals and my expectations for the world. They're coming to the larger picture in the next couple of days. So this is a true invitation to say nothing is too small to be grieved, and it doesn't need to be the big waves all the time, but it's an acknowledgement to say, yeah, this is sad. It's sad, isn't it? I heard the beautiful sentence, I wish it would be another way, as an embodiment, a verbal embodiment of grief. That was a beautiful one from Joshua Schrein. And the heart is a curious thing. You can decide not to grieve, or you can say, I'm not there yet, and that's fine. But the heart doesn't, the ungrieved business doesn't vanish. It gets stored up. The body and the heart are very patient. They say, okay, I'll keep this for later. And it patiently waits for ourselves to find the space and the skills and the compassion for this urge to be reintegrated. And sometimes it waits for years, and sometimes it waits for decades. And sometimes it turns into bitterness, and sometimes it turns into depression, and sometimes it turns into numbness. And we carry that with us. So grieving is a flow of unburdening ourselves. And what I grieve these days, and there's just me coming to an end, is that we can't be in a room together and have grieving conversations and grieving circles. We did this on the weekend in the course I just given. We had a grieving circle, and we brought stones to the middle of our community, and we called out to each other what we're grieving. And that was deeply healing. And we were crying together, we were shaking together, and we were listening together, and it was brought to the middle and it was spoken about. And I had a deep feeling, and I got reflected back that this was a form of healing. That was reintegrating our grief. It was the small thing and the not so small thing, and it was the personal thing, and it was the more than personal thing, and it was beautiful. So I want to tell you an invitation to share your grief with us. We have this tool of the chat box, and it needs to be good enough for today. Let's have a virtual grieving circle, if you like. And the promise of the grieving circle is always, this is confidential. No one will comment on the grief of another, and no one will give consultation and easy words. We are all adults. And if that which we grieve would be easy, we would have figured it out by now. Yeah, we're not stupid. Yeah, but our heart is sad, and our heart is heavy, and our heart is grieving. So you could use the chat box over the next few minutes and the next days to really express your grief in whatever form you want. It can be a word, or it can be a phrase, or anything. And the others might want to express their compassion. I hear you, I feel you. I am touched by your sharings. That is compassion speaking to it. And now we will go into a compassion meditation with each other, and you can use the chat box. The chat box anytime during our session today. So feel yourself invited to come to a sitting or lying down posture, and no pressure on the heart to feel anything. We will take it slowly. I'm not a big fan of overwhelming your hearts or my hearts in any place. So let's come to that body, sitting, standing, or lying down. And in order to practice grieving in a safe way, we need an anchor. We need a lighthouse. We need a compass. We need something to orientate and hold on to within those stormy waves. So let's explore. Let's explore feet on the floor, contact to the earth. And invite our awareness. We cannot make it, but we can invite it to sink into the earth contact. And I already can notice my heart softening and opening, and I might cry some tears today. Forgive me or not forgive me. And I can feel the earth underneath. There she is, the earth element. So my heart might quiver, and anyways, we send awareness down, down, down to the earth. I feel my feet on the floor. I feel the sitting bones on the chair, and I lean into this density. I lean into this gravity. And I can feel my back. I can feel the rib cage in which the breath opens up into. I can feel my spine and the shoulder blades. That's the earth element within the bones. And you can use the little word and. Your heart might be quivering or shaking, and that's okay. And I feel feet on the floor, ground underneath. I feel that which gives stability to the body. And as the earth element and bears the space element holding you, you're surrounded by space, forward and behind, to the right, to the left, and above. And if you were in a room with each other, this space would be filled with warmth, heartfulness, care, hearts extending to each other. So can the space around you be one which is caring for you? Just imagine. Give your imagination a little lunch. And you might notice the waves, intensity and calming, and intensity and calming. And that's exactly what the heart is allowed to do. We do not need to squeeze grieving from it. And all that there needs to be today is an invitation to say, I have a bit of stability and I have a safe environment and I feel held by more than me, the group, the Sangha. I could hold a little ouch. I'm not needing to solve it or better it or improve it in any way. It's just this acknowledging this is ouch. It's unresolved business. These hopes and dreams which have not manifested. All the big plans I had for myself. All the communications which didn't go the right way and we got so entangled in conflict we can't find our way out of it again. I don't know what to do, but I can grieve it. Or we can grieve the little and the imperfect in our lives. The job which is not ideal or takes up a lot of energy every day. We can grieve that there is so much to do and no end to it. We can grieve the pressure which our spiritual practice can sometimes bring upon us, yet another thing to improve. And any time between, you can come back to nourishing your heart mind with a little stability. Remember, the earth is still there to contact with, and breathing is still there, and spaciousness is still there. And maybe after a wave of grief, there comes a stillness. Heart taking refuge in just being with the breath, just noticing the feet on the floor and the simplicity of what life can also be. If your heart is numb, do not be ashamed of being numb. The heart mind opens up to grief when it feels safe and when it feels ready and when it feels resourced. So just be with that numbness. And you might notice the mind searching for something it can't grieve, trying to generate on emotion. Just give to an inhale and exhale, saying, look, this isn't necessary. That's just another pressure. All we do is create a safe space for our heart to express itself when it feels ready to. And in the end, we invite our hearts to extend to the others grieving. You're just like me, such a human being, and such a burden to carry. Just like me, shattered dreams and hopes which didn't come through, conflicts to maneuver through. Just like me, witness of this world. Just like me, faced with sickness and old age and dying. I'm touched by your vulnerability. And I'm respectfully bowing to everything you hold in your heart. And then comes an important step. We invite our hearts home. Safely bring the heart home into a nest. To say grief is a daily remembrance. It's not something we need to continue forever and forever. Maybe it's enough for now. You remembered. We came back in contact with our pain, our sadness, our numbness. And now, dear heart, it's time to back into the nest. A couple of gentle, soothing inhales and exhales. I come back hard. I come back tomorrow at the latest. And once more, we feel feet and we feel hands. If you like to, you could start touching the body. Here I am. These legs, this belly. Good morning, lovely belly. This chest, or the face. Take a bit of time, maybe a bit of embracing yourself, holding yourself, massaging yourself. And then you could do a couple of larger movements, see what, in terms of stretching and moving you need. What you need in terms of yawing, sighing, breathing. And then if you're ready, you come back to the screen. Right.
Today's podcast is an offering to you from our archive of freely available live daily classes. We make wisdom teachings and meditations as freely available as possible to as many people as wish to practice. You can help ensure we can continue to support a worldwide Sangha by leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts, by sharing this with someone who'd be interested, and by offering a small financial support at sangha.live/donate.